All right, we are live. What is up, everybody? Welcome back to another episode of Everything Virtual. It is myself, Zain, with Ronnie. We apologize for no game talk earlier this week. It ended up being a busier than usual weekend, and we didn't want to just talk about games that we hadn't played or had barely jumped into. So we'll try to double up for this coming weekend. But this is a news episode. We are excited because there have been some pretty big announcements, and I mean, Ronnie, I'll let you take it from here because I know you had been messaging me and you caught some of the Upload VR showcase, which is where a lot of our news will be coming from. So,
Yep.
what were some of the big takeaways for you? What are some of the big points that you wanted to touch on?
Well, first of all, I just wanted to congratulate the Upload VR people on a good
Mhm.
show. I thought my probably biggest takeaway from the show is that despite all the stay at home work remote type stuff that would have made something like that even more difficult than usual to kind of get all figured out. I thought they did a really good job, and the show in general was smoother and much more professional and polished than last year's show. So
Mhm.
as far as, not that last year's show was terrible or anything, but I thought my initial impression was just in terms of production value and everything. I thought
Yeah.
they really stepped it up this year, and everything seemed to be nice and flowy. And for the most part, um, it looked like in general a lot of the developers are kind of figuring out a little bit more how to show off their games. So
Yeah.
there was a lot more, yeah, uh, a lot more polished trailers overall, I'd say.
Mhm. Well, I mean, it's definitely as VR enthusiasts, it's nice to be able to see that. So, like you said, just want to congratulate them on a great show, super
Yep.
entertaining and very informative.
Yeah.
It definitely gets regular, and I don't mean this in a in any derogatory way. It definitely gets regular folks excited, right? Obviously, we're always excited about VR, but the people who are kind of just peripherally in,
Yep.
there's always some really cool takeaways from this. So I
Yep.
actually pulled up one of the articles from Upload VR that has all of the main show reveals. So we could just use that as a guide. What do you think?
Sure. And I mean, I guess my first impression was production value wise, I thought the show was great. My other takeaway, unfortunately, was just that in general, it was kind of hit or miss for me in terms of big news items. I didn't leave the show super, super pumped about future games, but at the same time, that's kind of to be expected. Like, if you think about what, the list of stuff that they had to show. It's not that, a lot of these smaller titles were really cool and exciting, and I can't wait to play them. But at the same time, the bigger studios like Oculus and Valve, for example, those bigger developers, EA, which had kind of their own separate show to that we're going to talk about later.
Hmm.
All those bigger players, they're going to be showing things off on their own.
Yeah.
So the Upload VR stuff is really meant to show off the smaller titles that people wouldn't necessarily, these games wouldn't necessarily fit under any other type of show.
Hmm.
And so on one hand, it doesn't have the same draw as some of those bigger shows, but at the same time, I think going forward, I think, and we can talk about some of the stuff that was mentioned in the show here in a bit. But going forward, I almost think what would be really cool is if a lot of these smaller titles were games that were gonna, if they could stagger their release dates to coincide with the show, or at least have something playable, so that this momentum and this PR push that they get from the show, having so many people tune
Hmm.
in, if that could directly translate into getting someone to purchase a game or getting someone to download a demo, I think
Yeah.
that's that. I think that's where something like this is going to have the most value for developers. But I don't
Yeah.
know. I'm
Well,
sure they're thinking of that stuff.
and I mean, these are all, so I agree with you completely, because a lot of it is smaller titles that people may not
Yeah.
necessarily hear of. A lot of it is also just kind of titles that are reaching new platforms, right? So a couple of ones that we'll
Yeah.
probably talk about coming out
Yep.
of Quest, things like
Yep.
that.
Yep.
But I would say the industry is still relatively young. So
For sure.
and the big elephant in the room here for me when you were kind of going through that is the fact that we're kind of in the middle of this pandemic, right, with
Yep.
COVID. So I wonder how many things were disrupted in that sense, and I'm hoping because of the fact that they had such a solid show this year,
Yep.
next year developers and people who are trying to take advantage of the spotlight that will be and the attention that this show garners,
Hmm.
there will be a lot more actionable things for people to do coming out of it. But
Yep.
on the whole, I think there's still a lot of really great stuff, and
Oh,
I
for
think
sure. And
as
so,
yeah. So
yeah, so I'll go through the list of stuff that just kind of caught my attention during the
we don't have
show.
to go. We don't have to go through everything, but I just figured I'd
Yeah.
pull it up,
I
jog your memory.
so one game that I haven't played, apparently it's been on other non-VR platforms, but VR apparently suits VR very well. And I don't know if it's already, I think it might already be out. Is Space Team VR.
Mm-hmm.
And that's a game that's come to my attention before, and for whatever reason I didn't pick it up quite yet. And so I'm wondering if, because my notes here say there was a Space Team VR video, and then there was mention of a new update. So it looks like, yeah. So is it out already? Because this game looked really cool to me. So
here's the trailer. Share on there.
And see, scroll down in the article. I just want to, and we're on Upload VR's site right now, just to bring up some of the trailers, and then to kind of remind ourselves of some of what. See, so it says we already think that Space Team VR is a great VR party game.
Party game with cross
and that's what
local multiplayer modes fleshing
yeah.
out the experience.
See, and so I think I came across maybe a review of the game or something before, and I hadn't quite picked it up yet, but this reminded me that this is a game that looks really cool, because I like fun, goofy multiplayer games are kind of the thing, the way to go. And I'd be curious to see if it supports Quest. I don't think it's on Quest yet, which is
it's due to launch on PSVR in the future. I don't believe I see it available.
So that's what. So it says vocal. Wait, go down just a little bit. I saw a mention of the Quest. It says running for Quest and PC users. See, so there. So that's a game. Yeah. So I might need to pick it up, because it seems like the perfect kind of game for me. If I can have one person playing on a Quest and the other person playing on the PC, and then potentially people join online. It seems kind of like goofy. Like it sounds kind of like there's an element of like weird teamwork involved with like, goofy hijink kind of. I don't know. It looks fun.
Yeah, I mean, well, one of the places that VR I feel like really excels in is almost kind of this arcadey feel, right? Just because not every experience needs to be this in-depth, long play type of game or experience. So having a lot of these things, and because and I say this endearingly, but VR still being in a stage where it's probably viewed as more of like what's the word I'm looking for? But almost like a novelty, right?
Yeah, I was gonna say like a gimmick or something.
Like a gimmick, yeah. And I didn't that word came to mind, but I was like, okay, I think I can find a better word. But yeah, no, totally. Like where it's just like, hey, for all the people that haven't even been introduced to VR yet, like this is a totally easy way to get them into something where it's just like, whoa, this is cool. Like I didn't know the technology existed, but this is just a fun, easy way for me to jump in and not just do it myself, but jump in with others potentially in the same party or in the same room if there's multiple headsets.
Yep. No, exactly. So that was one thing that kind of stood out to me. And then another game in the same vein that I know is not out yet, but it's from the Vertigo Games folks, and we had brought it up on a previous episode before, just in terms of the announcement. It's Traffic Jams.
Yes.
So Traffic Jams, I mean, I downloaded the demo. So there is a demo that's available now. And I thought that was really smart on Vertigo Games' part to bring it out. And I know they're publishing, so I can't remember off the top of my head who the actual developer is. But yeah, the thing I learned about Traffic Jams during the show is that, that's what I should have known. It was from Resolution Games, which they've made Akron and Keep Talking, or not. No, they didn't make Keep Talking and No One Explodes. Did they make? I'm trying to see if I'm mixing a couple of things together.
Can look it up so that we fact.
No. That does. I am mixing things up. So that's a game that I want to bring up later. So for now, I mean, Traffic Jams is, it's being published by Vertigo Games. It doesn't have any connection with the Resolution Games folks or anything like that. but it
No,
looks kind of like a
back when
cool
I'm supposed to
multiplayer game.
keep talking and nobody explodes.
Yeah, so they mention it in the vein of those games, as in like a fun local multiplayer type thing. See, so you're able to play. There's going to be someone in the headset, and then you can interact on mobile devices and stuff to kind of.
Yeah,
So
no, I know we had talked about it, but it's actually cool to
yeah,
see it implemented like that.
that's what. So these games. I mean, this game looks really really cool. And there's a demo out right now. So actually, I'm really excited to. I think everything in this demo that's being shown, or in this trailer, is maybe part of the demo. So,
Mhm.
so yeah, I encourage people to go check out the demo now. It's available in Steam, at least. I'm not sure if it's on the Oculus store, but in Steam, I saw the demo there, and yeah, it looks really cool. Like I was excited to see a game that's going to incorporate couch co-op because especially like here with the family, that's a big hit. Like for me, anyways, I have one
Yeah.
headset. I usually have multiple people that are waiting to play, and so this gives other people something to do that's also fun. So
Mhm. Well, I mean, we've been excited about local multiplayer for a long time, and I think a lot of that was before only available with PCVR through the PC itself, right? So,
yep,
and sometimes those controls are like difficult. I mean, it can be somewhat tricky for people to navigate, and also I felt like it was so new that the state that the developers were in terms of where it was at in terms of ideas was still very basic, right? Like I think of Panoptic, for example.
yep.
But now it's like if you can, everybody can jump online and everybody's got a smartphone these days. People are able to jump in. That is actually really exciting to me.
And then the next game I wanted to bring up was called Operencia. And this game just looked neat. So apparently, so this game is already out in non VR platforms. So it's a standard like first person dungeon crawler type game on flat screens. It's called the Operencia.
Pulling it up
So,
right now.
okay. So this was the announcement that it's coming to VR. And I just thought it looked really cool because it looks like a game that would fit VR really well. And just the style, like the art style in the game and the sense of atmosphere that I got from the trailer just looked super super interesting. So it looked like a place that I would want to be, just exploring, and it looked like the mechanics were fairly like they looked like they would be mechanics that would probably work in VR, like as opposed to adapting something like Skyrim or like
Mhm.
it looked like it would suit VR really well. So
This does. Wait, this reminds me. What was that early game?
yeah, that's what it reminded me of too. And it is, oh come on, like it's on the tip of my tongue.
No,
Um,
I never finished it, but
yeah, early on I was having trouble with some of those games running on my computer. It came out the same time as like it was a launch title, right? And
yeah.
they,
Oh
ugh,
gosh. Okay, it's gonna kill me now. Hold on. I'm gonna.
yeah, no, you have to look it up
Sorry.
because
Go ahead.
and I
Continue.
and I think there was even a sequel that came out recently to that other like a few months ago, anyways.
But okay, I'll look it up.
Okay,
Go
so
ahead.
look it up. But
I,
anyways,
didn't,
yeah,
I didn't mean to interrupt you. I was just
I
saying
just
it looks
thought this
exactly
looked
like
cool,
it.
and actually where it looked different to me was in just in terms of it looks like the character designs are really, really like I don't know. It's just something about it really like grabbed my attention, and so it's
Mhm.
definitely and it looks like the non VR versions of the game rated fairly highly. So I'm excited to see what this game could be like in VR. So this is definitely like on my list of I'm gonna keep keep my eye open for it, and when it comes out in VR, I'm gonna see how it does and potentially pick it up.
No, I'm like literally looking by release date, which is not going to go well because I have to
Yeah,
go. They don't do it the other way around.
it's
Oh gosh.
I
Okay.
I, I know the aesthetic, like
Uh
it's
it,
like stuck in my brain.
it's like it's a classic. Like anybody who had a Rift or a Vive early on.
All right, I'm gonna look up. Hold on, I can find it. I
Okay.
think I can find it. Hold on. Come
Well,
on.
okay. So with that being said, you go ahead and look it up. Maybe you'll have more luck than me.
Okay.
Um,
So yeah,
I
so the
will.
next game on my list.
Oh, sorry. Go ahead.
Oh, I was gonna say oh, there it is. Vanishing Realms.
Vanishing Realms.
Yep.
All right. Good find. How did you find
Yeah.
it?
Just by chance, I happened to I googled HTC Vive dungeon crawler, And then I saw a Reddit post that said, "Are there good ones?" And I clicked it, and just someone in
someone
there
found
mentioned it, and
okay.
it like jumped out at me.
All right, good find. Okay, let's continue then.
All right, so then the next game that just kind of caught my eye in terms of something I want to look out for is Lonn, Lonn, by Sixth Sense Studios, and it looks like it's kind of a cyberpunk story-driven type game. If it wasn't for the fact that it's in VR, I think there's a lot of games that kind of like have that aesthetic right now that are coming out in the
Mhm.
future. But this just the fact that it's in VR, it looked really, really cool. I know Six Sense Studios just in terms of like it, I mean, they're like one of the bigger names in VR. So just it
Yeah.
stood out to me as, oh, interesting that they're behind it. And so this is just one
What else
that,
has Sixth Sense put out?
as far as games, I can't really recall off the top of my head. I should know. Um, but just in terms of they were behind like some hardware stuff, and they were like a big player early on in
This
VR.
reminds me a
So
lot of Sirento.
yeah, it kind of does, but it with a little bit of like grabbing weapons and stuff from like Sirento mixed with Blades and Sorcery, mixed with I don't know, like Half-Life Alex, a
There's
little,
almost a
not really.
little Robo Recall element in there when you're able to get
Yeah. So I don't
once
know.
set off.
This
Yeah.
could be kind of generic or it could be really, really cool. So I wanted to mention it just in terms of this is something definitely when I watched it, I thought to myself, oh, this looks like it could be something really cool. Like so again, like we haven't played any of these games, but
Mhm.
just from watching this trailer, it looked like something fun.
Yeah, I mean, so the thing is, like, sometimes a game doesn't need to be completely original, especially
Yeah,
like as we go along. There's going to be less and less originality as the limitations of VR start to be reached in terms of what is currently capable or where the technology
sure.
is at. But if you can take a couple of different ideas or elements from that were positive from other games and put them together, and not just put them
Yeah.
together, but execute them really well,
Yep.
like I'm looking at this, I get Sirento vibes, I get Darth, or I get the Star Wars being able to use the Force vibes, that whole Robo Recall thing. You know what I mean? So it's like taking
Yeah.
a lot of really cool elements from different games potentially, or yeah, just different games and experiences and putting them together. And if the gameplay is great, storyline is cool, I mean, hey, I'm all for trying it.
Yep. And there is no like, release date or anything on that. So that was one thing that I saw people were kind of like, "Oh man, like but it does look cool." So and then let me see
Oh, wait.
another one that I kind of thought just sounded neat and I'd have to see kind of what it ends up looking like. It's called Agents. Agence.
AGN agents, got it.
Yeah. And this one I just thought was cool, more like in concept. I don't really know exactly how much of a game it's going to be or what, but it sounded cool because it basically is built on this kind of weird AI driven experience.
New experiment with
Um
AI and interaction. Okay.
yeah, so there are these characters that are in the game and they're completely AI driven.
Here we got the trailer up.
So and you basically teach these little characters to do things. And yeah, I mean I recommend anyone that's kind of interested
Yeah, I
in
mean,
artificial intelligence to watch the trailer because he explains it. But I
mhm.
mean, it sounds very experimental and it sounds like it's a game where you're basically training some kind of a creature or something, and that it very much can turn into completely different things based on how that training goes. So like it like I said, I don't know exactly how open ended it's going to be, exactly what's going to be possible, but just listening to this guy explain this experience and what it could potentially be like had me very intrigued. Like this was something that like, and it says it's not going to be exclusive to VR headsets, so it's something
Yeah.
that anyone could experience. But it just the idea of messing with an artificial intelligence and seeing what that could result in
Yeah,
sounded
well,
cool
I
to
mean,
me.
the computing is just so much higher than what it used to be. So to be able to like interact with something like this, because there's definitely games that I've played in the past, not necessarily VR or sorry, AI focused, but in terms of just kind of like developing a life or something like Black and White comes to mind for computer games or creatures. I'm totally dating myself here, uh, but like this immediately like brings me back to that of like, or almost like the Sims, like, right, where
Mhm.
you get to control certain aspects but then they kind of develop on their own, which is really cool.
hmm And then I guess I'll kind of link these two or three games. It looks like two together because they were both games that have already been released, but they're coming to the Quest. Or actually, I'll three. I'll mention three games. So the first two uh, are Gravity Lab and In Death Unchained. So Gravity Lab was a game that I guess I completely missed. It's been out since like the launch of most of the VR platforms, like back in 2016, 2017, I think.
Hmm.
And it just watching the trailer, it looked really cool to me. It's a lot of physics-based games where you're, kind of lining up like it's almost like uh like what those Goldberg machines or whatever, like finding ways of solving puzzles based on on
Oh,
putting
that's
together like
really cool. Yeah.
yeah, and so, like, when I saw this, I was like, "Oh, that looks really neat. I'm interested in it." And then realized, "Oh, wait, it's already available," and this was a Quest announcement. So, and the reviews are fairly positive. It's just
Mhm.
it's been out for a while. So this kind of reminded me that the Quest is kind of a new way that a lot of these developers that can bring their games that were really good on the PC, like,
Yeah.
back into prevalence
It's a new
and
audience
to
and a
new
bigger
eyes.
audience too. Yeah.
Exactly. So, because that's like I said, I'm surprised that I had missed it, just because. I mean, granted, there are a ton of things in Steam even at the launch of the headsets, but and for all I know, it also could be because it was slightly before we started the podcast and we weren't as geared into all the releases. But
True.
um,
Still, this is
but
a
yeah,
good one.
but
Yeah.
it looks neat. So I just thought I'd mention it because it definitely got my attention.
Hmm.
Um, and it kind of reminds me of like Fantastic Contraption or other, like, there are certain games like this that work really, really well in VR, and they're
Yeah.
just a lot of fun and very accessible. So I think these are good kind of games for kids, at least on the earlier levels where they're not super complicated.
Hmm.
So that's
I
that.
mean,
And
there's
then
there's definitely an audience for this type of game too, right? So it's
yeah,
and
and
I
In
think
Death in the next game, In Death Unchained, that's a game that did really well. I know, like, I have it, and I just never got a chance to play it. But I know that it was highly rated. It still is, like in Steam and the other VR platforms on the PC. And that game is apparently coming to Quest now. So again, I mean, it was very good on the PC VR from what I understand. So uh, once again, it's nice to see games that did
kind
really
of having
well
a
in PC.
life, right? Yeah.
Yeah, to come and get a new audience and also get the attention of PC people like me. Like, if this game blows up on the Quest, that's going to get people that have PC VR systems back into the game as well.
Yeah.
So it's just a nice way of
No,
of
it's
bringing things up.
you're absolutely right. Like I feel like, I mean, I know we as a podcast have been uh on and off in terms of how up to date we are with things, but
Yeah,
like
and we have so many games that we have to
yeah,
play.
some
So
games
it's
that
like,
we're always like trying to keep up with. But yeah, it's just
yeah.
kind of cool that they're. I mean, it sucks that we missed it because it looks like a really cool experience.
Yeah. Yeah, like I said, I have it. Like, I know I bought it.
Mhm.
So it's just a matter
Oh,
of
you
like
beat them,
finding
yeah.
the time. Yeah, it's a matter of finding the time to play it. And then it gets lost in the shuffle of all the numerous releases that come out.
Mhm.
So like I said, these kind of games coming to Quest, I think is really good. And the next game, and this is the biggest of the three that had a Quest, announcement, was Onward.
Yes.
And I don't know, like, I'm not, I wish Damon was on the show because he'd probably be able to speak a little bit more to Onward. I don't know if there have been a lot of rumblings of Onward coming to the Quest or not, but it sounded to me like this was like an announcement type of situation for Dante and the
Yeah.
Onward team.
I mean, Onward has been probably one of the games that has stayed alive and been, you know what I mean, like in that genre, because we've definitely heard of other games come and go, and I don't want to name any to throw them under the bus, but yeah, Onward is definitely, there's a brand behind Onward, and I think that the fact that it's coming to Quest now is huge. So when I saw that
Yep.
announcement, I mean, I used to get into there regularly. Right now I am Quest only, so to be able to jump back in with Quest would be awesome.
Yep. And then
So
some other notables. I'm just gonna kind of, because we need to
we
get
need we need
moving, I
yeah,
think.
we need to get to
Um,
Squadrons.
Yeah, so other notables that I thought, Lo-Fi looks great still. I had interviewed the developer of Lo-Fi Blair Renault when he was doing a Kickstarter, and so that's still looking good, looking sharp. Gnomes and Goblins is the Jon Favreau project that looks like it's gonna see the light of day.
And if
And
you haven't tried the demo on that, it's really cool. Just go.
yeah,
It's free. It's
and
a fun
and I don't know if for anyone out there that's fans of the Mandalorian, on the making of featurettes that came out on Disney Plus for Mandalorian, Jon Favreau first of all showed off a lot of how they used VR and the Vive specifically in some of his productions, but showed that apparently his work directly from Gnomes and Goblins on animating and trying to get emotions out of the goblins in that game is what led him to the design for Baby Yoda.
I did not know that.
And now, yeah, and so now if you look back at what the characters look like in Gnomes and Goblins, it like totally makes sense. And literally he explains in that documentary about how I spent so much time learning about how to like manipulate the ears and the eyes to make these little creatures look cute and whatever. And he directly took that experience to the idea of Baby Yoda and Mandalorian. So anyways, for people that weren't aware of that, that's kind of like a cool little Easter egg thing to know about.
100%.
And then the last I have three more things. Vertigo Games remastered. Vertigo Games remastered. That's not right. Vertigo it's called Vertigo, right?
Vertigo was the game, yeah.
Yeah, so that's why I don't know why I put Vertigo remastered. And that's coming out. I know if you have the original Vertigo that you'll get the remaster for free. And that's being developed. Yeah, that's being developed alongside Vertigo 2. So I know there's the demo available for Vertigo 2. It's definitely worth checking out for people that haven't seen it already. It's really, really cool. And then this is the game I alluded to previously, Blast On, which is a new game from Resolution Games. They're the makers of Angry Birds VR as well as Acron, which is a really cool asymmetrical VR title that I've mentioned on the show before. And so, I mean, this looks like kind of one-on-one combat type scenarios. So, but just the pedigree of the developer alone has me interested because I've really liked the titles they've released so far are, not that they've been super, super simple. They're a little bit on the more kid-friendly side of things, but they've been really well-polished, like well-received titles. So,
yeah.
And then the last thing to mention is that we're getting a free Vacation Simulator update from the folks at Alchemy Labs, and it's called Vacation Simulator Back to Job. So, and it's the idea that I think the tagline that I heard on one of the interview videos Andrew Ike did after the show was that for some people the vacations are the jobs or something like that, and like basically it comes full circle. So like. So
nice way to tie the games together. That's
and so they're bringing some cool stuff from basically some ideas from Job Simulator into the Vacation Simulator world. And again, like the best thing to know about that is that if you already own Vacation Simulator, it's going to be a free update. So and it's coming to all platforms that Vacation Simulator's on. I'm not sure if they're all going to release at the same time or not, but it will eventually be on all those platforms. So that's yeah, that's kind of all I wanted to say about the Upload VR show.
We should definitely touch on Squadron then.
Yeah. One other thing to mention before we get into that, just a brief. Contractors VR is now it's available on Quest for Side Quest. So you can't buy it from the Oculus store, but if you go onto the Side Quest store, you can get it there. And I mean, Contractors is a really awesome multiplayer a shooter. We played a ton of it on the PC side of things and really had a lot of fun. And so it's a game that I'm happy it's coming to the Quest. So now, Onward will eventually be on the Quest, Pavlov VR and Contractors on Side Quest. So a lot of these big multiplayer staples on the PC side of things are now all coming to Quest, and that's really cool.
Yep.
So,
all right, let's get your thoughts on Squadrons. I do.
Yeah.
You gotta get out soon, but I wanted to talk about it just because everything looks so cool about it.
Yeah, so
And let me go
so
ahead and share the trailer on the Steam
yeah,
page.
and
Go
actually
ahead.
be careful with that one because we don't want to any I mean hopefully they won't ping us for showing their trailer, but since it's Star Wars, you just
Oh, well, I mean, I won't put the audio on, so we'll see.
okay. Okay.
But yeah,
Yeah, yeah.
I
But
can just turn audio off. So
it's their promotional trailer anyway, so there
yeah.
shouldn't be any problems. But um, yeah, so EA, and this is what I'm kind of talking about. Some of these bigger announcements, they weren't part of the Upload VR show, but they are coming out, around this what normally would be E3 time, nonetheless.
Hmm.
So EA announced that they're releasing a Star Wars space shooter game where you're flying X-wings and TIE fighters and all the other various ships, and it's coming to the consoles obviously and PC, but they first and officially they stated for sure that it's supporting full VR from beginning to end, so you can do everything in this game in VR. And the other thing is that they announced that it would be supporting HOTAS controls, which flight stick and I'm really bad at this because I'm new to these types of games, but whatever it is, the throttle control.
Yeah.
So
Okay.
so anyway,
I think
so
everyone knows what you're talking about.
yeah, yeah. So anyway, so this has me really excited. I haven't gotten into these games before. Like I know X-wing versus TIE Fighter is super super fan favorite, and in general, the VR has a lot of avid like rabid fans
Mhm.
playing Elite Dangerous and Eve Valkyrie when it first came out, and like tons of other games, VTOL, Ultra Wings. Like there's so many games available for VR platforms that support HOTAS controls. And so what's amazing about this is that it's an official Star Wars game,
Yep.
and it has the potential to be something, I mean, basically a spiritual successor to those old PC games where it's not just arcadey. It's kind of a nice balance between realism and arcadey where you feel like you're actually piloting a real X-Wing or a TIE fighter or other ship in the Star Wars universe. And so super, super excited about this game. And it actually,
October 2nd is the release date.
yeah,
You can already order this. It's $40 or
yeah.
$39.99
Which
on
isn't a
Steam.
bad, I
Yeah.
mean, $40 isn't bad. I would still wait. There's no reason to pre-order really until you find out whether it's actually going to be good or not. So I mean, I would
Yeah.
wait to see what reviews are going to be like. But I will say that this game prompted me to go ahead and try to go and buy a HOTAS, like a joystick and
Mhm.
throttle, because it got me really excited, and it made me realize that I've really wanted to learn how to use one in a lot of these other games. I have so many, like all the games I mentioned, they're all in my Steam library.
Yeah.
And me personally, I don't it's hard for me to play those games with a controller or even like the motion controls. Just like trying to pretend like my controller is a flight stick when it's not connected to anything is just a little bit hard.
Mhm.
And so I've read so many people commenting about how super immersive and awesome it is to have like an actual joystick setup. So I went ahead and got one. So I'm going to be playing it with all the games I already own,
Mhm.
and then hopefully I'll be ready for not only this game, Squadrons, but also Microsoft Flight Simulator 2020, which whenever that game eventually comes out, like it's been in development for a long time. It looks really cool too. So I'm
Yeah.
not, uh, in general, I'm a little bit nervous about my purchase, just in terms of, I'll be honest, I'm not like Damon is more of the like hardcore, like simulator type guys. And I'm kind of more of a casual fan when it comes to some of this stuff, but I do have a passing interest. Like I would love to know what these types of games are like. And so now's my chance.
Mhm.
And Star
Well,
Wars Squadrons got me excited.
yeah, no, I mean, I think we should actually do maybe a deep dive because I'd be curious to get your thoughts on what I guess HOTAS controller, if that's the right
Yeah.
terminology,
Yeah.
which one you end up going with.
Sure.
Just because like this is a game I definitely want to play. As
Yep.
a Star Wars fan, I think and Star Wars and VR fan, like here's another place of cross collaboration where this would be really cool. Just looking at the trailer looks like an awesome way to kind of dive in.
Yep.
So I think it'd be good for us to maybe do a deep dive into this, and like you said, get Damon on, just because I was following the kind of, we have like a group thread between us, and there was a huge discussion on that back and forth about what's good. So I feel like I will do my part in terms of jumping in to do some research, but maybe once we
Yep.
decide, we can give some recommendations on the pluses and minuses on a future episode.
Yeah, no, I agree. And there are numerous price points that you can jump in on
Mhm.
HOTAS controllers and stuff. So that's what, yeah. And the only downside to the reveal of Squadrons, there was a trailer dropped a couple days ago, and then today they showed gameplay, and they had been promising tons. You're going to see gameplay, and honestly, I feel like they didn't show as much gameplay as I wanted. But so I'm still curious. I
Yeah.
want to know more, but I'm super excited about it, and I think that, like you said, this is something that VR does really, really well. It does that cockpit, immersive experience so well.
Yeah.
And so I think this is a potential to bring a lot of people that have been interested in the medium, over.
Mhm.
So,
Well, there's just so much less, and maybe I shouldn't be speaking out of turn here, but I would assume that there's so much less when you don't have to think about room scale, right?
yeah.
So you
Yep.
can really focus on a lot of the other elements from within the cockpit, and then I guess outside of where you're going. But yeah, man, I don't know. I'm really excited for it. I think that they're like I said, Star Wars VR. I think what we can do, and I'm sure the other guys will want to chime in as well. So maybe on a future episode, if there are more promotions or
Hmm.
promotional materials released for the game, we
Hmm.
can definitely do a deep dive into that, and maybe just kind of talk more about Star Wars and VR, and how this is probably the franchise that's really leading the charge.
You're
And again,
right. No, it has big titles, and like they're being
big
pushed by
titles,
big
yeah.
developers, and like first Oculus, now EA, and
Mhm.
VR, and really
So and I think about a lot of the other franchises that dominate popular culture, whether it's you think comic books, so like Marvel, DC, or something like a Harry Potter. Like it's really cool to see Star Wars, and Star Wars has always had a natural link and relationship to gaming.
yeah,
But it's awesome to see this kind of just diving in on all fronts, right? Like with
yeah.
the other Star Wars game that we mentioned in a previous episode, I forgot the title, but this that and Squadrons. I think that there's a lot of really cool things, and Vader Immortal for folks who haven't played that yet. So
Yep. No, I totally agree.
lots of fun stuff. All right, Matt, dude, this was a jam-packed episode. We
It
talked about
really, I
a
mean, we
lot.
busted through because I know we're kind of a little bit on a time crunch, but
Yeah, yeah.
I think we covered most of it.
No, we got everything. Well, whatever we miss, that's why we got a news episode for next week. So guys, let us know if there is anything we miss. We'd love to read up on it. Like I said, or like Ronnie and I have said, there's just so much flying around VR wise, which is a blessing and a curse for for us, because we love this stuff. It's just a matter of making sure we're keeping up with it and digesting it fully, so that we can talk about it with you guys. And yeah, I am excited to actually jump into maybe some of those games that I didn't even realize were out for Quest right now. So
For sure.
lots of fun stuff. Let's plan for a game talk this weekend. But
Mhm.
yeah, man. Hope you guys have a great weekend. Ronnie, you have a great weekend as well. I'll
You
chat with
too.
you soon, man.